Hey guys, Achilles here with another build. Today we're gonna talk about an old build, Condemn Crusader, with basically new tools. Today we're gonna talk about Lon Condemn Crusader, arguably the most powerful Crusader build for solo push. Basically, this build uses the same tools, just like the old, previous season Condemn Crusader, which, there you go, a con set. But now we're gonna utilize Lon for it. The difference is that the con set was giving us some utility, which was 50% accurate cooldown as well as 50% RCR when accurate is up. And then it was giving us, for the 6-piece, 50% damage reduction and 1500 basically damage multiplier. When we transition to Lon, we get that 50% damage reduction, we get 54% damage reduction from Lon set. And instead of 1500, we obviously get 9750, so a way bigger multiplier. But then we lose the utility, we lose that 50% accurate cooldown and that 50% RCR. So, how are we gonna do this if you're losing those utility? So, if we actually put cooldown on every piece we possibly can, weapon, offhand, both rings, gloves, and shoulders, and obviously a gem in the helm, and even Leorix in the cube, how are we gonna match that cooldown? We can't. So we have to compromise. That's where this comes in. Accurate's Awakening. In my opinion, ridiculously broken item for a Crusader, which allows us to do a lot of things, including resetting our Accurate's champion. So what is Accurate's Awakening? Every time we block, we have a 25% chance to reduce all of our cooldowns by 1 second. So this shield is basically Obsidian Ring of Zodiac on crack. Obsidian Ring of Zodiac reduces all of our cooldown, reduces one of our cooldowns by 1 second whenever we hit with a resource spending attack. It's 100% whenever we hit with a resource spending attack. We get 1 second of one of our abilities on our bar, which is on cooldown. This reduces all of our abilities by 1 second. What does that mean? That means if we actually have a very high block chance, potentially 100%, 25% chance meaning on average, every 4 attack we'll get 1 proc. So every 4 block we get all of our cooldown reduced by 1 second. So if you're in density, we potentially are blocking tens of attacks per second, which gives us that massive block chance. Massive block chance for the purpose of Accurate's Awakening. We are gonna aim for 100% block chance, and that will reduce the cooldown of all of our abilities, including the Accurate's champion. So with all of these cooldowns, which is around 60%, Accurate champion's cooldown gonna be somewhere around 33 seconds with a 20 second duration. That means we have to get 13 procs of this during that 20 second duration in order to reset it. The rest of the build, we're gonna be using convention of elements. When you're practicing with this build, you can actually switch this and use Obsidian Ring of Zodiac, because we are using a spender called Condemn. Because of our Phaedra's Wrath, the Condemn becomes a spender, spends 40 Wrath every time we use it, but it has no cooldown. Therefore, it will proc Obsidian Ring of Zodiac. So we can use an Obsidian Ring of Zodiac here, just to make sure we get our Accurate up and practice with the setup and get used to it. The other item in the cube is lyrics. You either wear the lyrics if you don't have it, and Dariel's Visage, and you can choose other things here. It's mostly utility. You really don't get damage. You can get damage from it in the form of Hexing Pants of Mr. Yawn. I hate this item. The damage increased by it is additive. The resource generation is pretty nice, but it hinders you from a lot of things. Like, you have to constantly move, meaning if you get a Oculus, you have to literally circle in that Oculus, and the moment you stop, it reduces your damage by a whopping 25%. By a whopping 20%, sorry. And when you're using a generator, which I tell you why we're using a generator here, although we're not using focus restraint, it's a Lon build. When we're using a generator, your character stops. You can't stop it. There's no way that it's impossible that you can use a generator and move. As you can see, I am moving with force move here. The moment I use the generator, my character stops. And we have to use that generator. Therefore, that item, in my opinion, is really, really bad. Other things you can use in the cube, if you want to wear a lyric piece, would be utility items. Something like Nemesis Bracers. Or we can cube this string of ears and wear a cooldown belt, vigilant belt. You get where I'm going with this. You can just switch things around and to your liking, and basically use what fits your playstyle better. Other than that, if you're using the fire helm and Dariel Visage, there's no other better item other than Mage Fist. 20% more fire, why not? We're gonna be using Cinder Coat. This is essential, you have to use it. 30% RCR on fire skills. We are using Fire Condemn, we're not using the Holy One, just so we can benefit from this. This item is what allows us to bypass the 2-piece bonus of a con and basically get as close as possible to it. It gives us that 50% needed RCR. Well, this gives us 30, but it's close to what this was. With the Accurate Awakening Shield, our provoke comes up more often, more often of cooldown rather than a concept, and that gives us 30 wrath, obviously, per use. Sometimes in density, you'll see when I demonstrate the build, this actually is on like a very, very short cooldown, like a 2-second cooldown, okay, so you can spam it and get that wrath. So, how the build functions. Obviously, we're using a Hellfire. I don't have a better Hellfire than that, but we are using a Hellfire. I explain why. We want that hold your ground passive. As I said, we need that block. So hold your ground passive gives us 30% block. It says you don't dodge anymore, but we never had a dodge active ability or a passive dodge, so that doesn't even apply to this character. So we get 30% block from it, and passively we get 20% block from wearing a shield. So that will give us a total of 50% block. How do we get to 100? We're using the generator, as I explained to you. Punish. Punish has many runes, all of them which are useless to this specific build. To be honest, they're all useless regardless. But one of the runes gives us 15% critical hit chance whenever we block, so might as well use that. Punish gives us 15% block chance, so as long as we keep that buff up, basically every 5 seconds we press Punish, we'll keep that 15% block chance. 15% on top of 50 gives us 65%. And there it comes, Provoke Hit Me. Whenever we use Provoke, for 4 seconds, we get 50% block chance. We were at 65, 50% of 65 is 34, roughly. 33, 32.8. Anyway, it will give us almost 100% block chance. That, by itself, allows us to go to nearly max block chance and therefore proc that Accurate Awakening as much as possible. This rune of Condemn has a very high proc coefficient. This rune of Condemn specifically has higher proc coefficient because it has a added damage bonus to it. Although it doesn't do any damage, 50% of all damage taken, sweet fuck all. But it has an added damage bonus to it, therefore it has a higher proc coefficient. How does that help us? That means if you don't want to use Nemesis Bracers, you can use, do I have one? Well, you can use Ancient Pathland Defender, you can use APDs. Oh, I have a holy one. Use APDs, and if you have stun chance, freeze chance on the belt, stun on pants, on gloves, on weapon, freeze, the stun. If you have any stun or freeze on your gear, it will actually proc a lot for these APDs. So that is again another option. As I said, we're using fire, so 20% ammo, 20% braces, 20% chest, 20% gloves, 20% headpiece, and the final 20% on pants brings us to a total of 120% fire damage increase. They diminish down a lot, but best options we have. For the boots, we're using illusory boots. This is what is nice about Lon. You can use a lot of utility items. So we get illusory boots. Shoulder piece really doesn't matter what you use, as long as you can get like Condemn and cooldown on it. I am using area damage here and also on my, well, I wish I had on my gloves, but area damage in this build is not, it is good, but you gotta remember our damage comes from multiplier of the set, which is 750 per piece, 9750, 800 from shield, and 800 from the weapon, and that's it. The rest of it is just the damage multiplier common among all builds, which is elemental damage, crit hit damage. It's just the area damage potentially for builds that don't rely on the procs is a huge thing. For Condemn, if you read the Blade of Prophecy, it says whenever basically two Condemn enemies basically are beside each other, when you hit Condemn and that Condemn hit two targets, they each produce another Condemn. So you get a proc from Blade of Prophecy. That's where you see those extra explosions. That is a triggered ability by Blade of the Prophecy, and triggered ability cannot trigger another trigger, which is area damage. So the area damage does proc from your own Condemn. It doesn't proc from any of these extra explosions. So for this build, I recommend RCR, to be honest, rather than area damage. So if you have a pair of quad gloves, use resource cost reduction on the fourth, or on the shoulders, instead of area damage, use resource cost reduction. That will help you much. That will help you more than area damage does. Anyway, I'm gonna go through the skills quickly. We explain punish. Other runes are, yeah, whatever. You use maybe life regen. I like the 15% crit hit, because you're pressing punish every 5 seconds. The rest of the time you're pressing condemn. Therefore, that 15% crit hit chance is high and very, very high uptime. Provoke hit me. You have to use this. There's no other choice, just to get that massive block chance. Iron skin, steel skin. Increase the duration of iron skin. 50% damage reduction. Basically, for 7 seconds. Massive. Laws of Valor, Unstoppable Force. That's again another must. We can't change that. It gives us 50% RCR. And to just keep it up, we are using Long Arms of the Law. Long Arm of the Law doubles the duration of it. Makes it 10 second. Laws of Valor is almost with our cooldown at about 11 seconds. So one proc of Akarat's Awakening makes this 100% uptime. Akarat Champion Prophet, it's a 30% separate multiplier, as well as when we use the rune Prophet, gives us 150% additional armor, as well as whenever we take fatal damage, it's a proc basically. It heals us full, and hopefully we can keep this up with that Akarat's Awakening. Condemn, The fire rune is what we are going to be using for obvious reasons. Cinder coat. Our other passives beside the hold your ground, which I have on my amulet, is long arm of the law, finery, 1.5% strength for every gem. We have 10 gems, 15% strength. Renewal. This is basically a replacement for Holy Cause. Since we are not using any holy damage, our Condemn is fire, we're not going to gain that health from Holy Cause. We don't heal up, so it's pointless to use Holy Cause. So what I'm going to use is Renewal. Holy Cause was giving us 1% health whenever we dealt holy damage. So Renewal gives us that pretty nice health every block. Every block I get 16, 17k health, or 16k health. And if we block a lot, that's a lot of healing coming through. And obviously we need heavenly strength to be able to wield a two-handed weapon. This is the build. It's fairly simple. I'll just I guess demonstrate it in a 110 maybe. This should be a cake in, like this is just walk in the park. I mean, the gems are Bane of the Trap, just like the old Condemn, Esoteric Alteration, and Bane of the Stricken. Why every time I'm trying to demonstrate a build, I get this? Well, unfortunately, we are in a horrible rift. I actually want to show you the reset. So you guys should be able to see that my cooldowns are keep resetting and I'm keep pressing them. Like, I'm killing Mallet Lords and they really attack, like they attack really slow. As you guys can see, my Acra just went off. Like basically instead of 13 seconds, I had about 2 seconds off. When you're pushing, you obviously don't do this floor. I mean, you shouldn't. So you are gonna get hit more than what I'm getting hit. Yeah, let's pass the door boss, because we can't click on it. Remember, a lot of affixes are blockable. Well, we don't want to sit in the molten, but a lot of affixes are blockable. Like electrified, it is blockable. This is a horrible floor. Like, we have nothing to kill. I'm actually gonna go downstairs. Hopefully there's some mobs so I can show you that we can easily. Well, unfortunately they don't even do enough damage for me to proc. I was gonna show you that the utility of Prophet still exists even in this build. This is really oh, power. I think we do have Nemesis, yes. This is really a push build, so you potentially don't do these floors. But when you're in density, or, well, maybe I should have done a 115. These die way too fast. Oh, frozen. We just got like, I think 5 procs of that. Across Awakening. So we wait till we get to the density, then we use provoke obviously to get Wrath back as much as possible. Something like, oh shit, I shouldn't be sitting in that. Like every affix has a chance of resetting. I'm just actually nice. The build is very strong. Very, very strong. You guys see, like, I'm cutting through these like butter. And the Accurate Awakening is not just for Accra Champion. It also reset your utility stuff, your Iron Skin, your Provoke, your damage reduction. It's just all in all goodness, so... I'm going to aggro the vessels, the transformers, and they just die the moment I go to them. I want to aggro as much as possible, so we can sit in the middle of density. Unlike the other Condemn, the holy one with Accra, when we used to just run around and just go back in just on holy. If we have enough that we can keep our block going, we can have our Iron Skin pretty much 100% uptime, and that allows us to sit in density very easily. We are gonna spawn actually by picking these up. No, we need you. Man Carver. Just like the old one. The old Condemn. Single target is still a pain in the ass. You rather have what do you call it? You rather have ad bosses. We are trying to proc here. Yes, alright, we did proc. Unfortunately, he's hitting like never. So we don't get many block chances, but it's enough. I mean, the damage is so high that I honestly don't mind resetting this, and with a little bit of RCR, we're gonna be fine as long as you not forget to keep your Laws of Valor up. We're gonna be fine with the Condemn. Another thing is, if you want to use this build for gem ops, I use this for my gem ops a lot of the time, just usually I sometimes even stream it. If you want to use this to do speeds, to do lower level greater rifts, instead of this Accurate Awakening, what you can use is Ingium. Ingium reduces your cooldowns by 10 seconds whenever you kill basically elite pack. That brings the Akira champion exactly where it needs to be, so you can reset it with Ingium. Right? So if you use Ingium instead of Akira's Awakening, you can basically go through a GR100 easily, like stomp it with 1500 Paragon. And then, since you are not using Akira's Awakening, you don't need any of these. You don't need Punish or you don't need Provoke. So you are still using Provoke for Wrath purposes, but you can use something like Cleanse. Get Life on Hit for every enemy hit. Or Sketch Run just to reduce... I don't like this because it slows the enemies down. I don't want them to be slowed down. I want them to come to me. And since we don't have Vacuum and the ability to stack the mobs and pull the mobs together, if you don't want to use the Hellfire, you can drop this Renewal. I like it. I think it's one of the good passives. But if you don't want to use this, you can use Hold Your Ground here and drop Renewal. And instead of a Hellfire, you can pick up this item, S of Joanne. S of Joanne neckpiece always actually rolls with cooldown. So if you get one with cooldown, and let's say crit, you can just roll crit hit damage on it. Losing that 20% fire is actually not that big because we already have 5 other pieces with fire. Braces, chest, gloves and pants, and headpiece. So that is not a big loss. It's still about 9% damage, I believe, but it's not 20. So you can use other utility items like this. S of Joanne is going to be pretty actually nice. It helps us a lot. Obviously, for more Wrath regeneration, I am using Templar as well. It gives us a nice extra Wrath generation. This is pretty much the build. You can basically change it to your liking and fix it to what you would prefer, and experiment with it. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe. Let me get this 1,000 subscribers. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.